Welcome to Stories Beyond Borders, the podcast where culture, identity, and personal journeys come together. I'm your host, Urmi, and in each episode we sit down with voices from around the world to talk about what it means to belong, to move, to grow, and to find home. Whether you're a third culture kid, an expat, or someone redefining identity on your terms, these are your stories too. Today, I'm excited to welcome Asees Anand to the podcast. Asees was born in Japan, grew up in Los Angeles, and now calls New York City home. Her journey has been global from the start. She studied international affairs at George Washington University, went on to earn her master's at the London School of Economics, and even spent time studying in Morocco and France. She began her career in Brussels, working in European Union relations before moving into real estate in Manhattan, where she helps people find their place in one of the world's most dynamic cities. On top of that, she's the creator and host of Sakura Seeking Strength, a podcast that explores life between cultures, embracing change, and writing your own definition of success. From career shifts to family life, and from navigating identity to building community, Asees brings such a rich perspective, and I can't wait to dive into her story today. Welcome, Asees.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So I will start with my first question, which is, what is your story?
Sure. So I'm a third culture kid. If you look at me, I have Indian origins, but I was born in Japan. I was raised in Los Angeles, California. And then, as you mentioned, I went to school in DC. And then I actually pursued more education overseas. So I was in Morocco, in Paris. Then I landed in Brussels, and basically I'm a mix of a bunch of different cultures and identities and, bridging different gaps and just finding your inner strength or, finding out who you are sometimes when you're just in environments that are completely foreign to you.
So here's my question to you, because this is the same question that is asked to me, because I don't know if you remember, I was born in Italy, and I'm usually asked, why Italy? So here's my question for you. Why Japan?
Well, my grandfather actually moved to Japan in the 1950s. So my father was raised there as well. So my paternal side had been in Japan for a couple of generations. And then my mother was raised in New Delhi, India. So Japan was when my grandfather moved for business opportunities. And my father was just 2 years old. And so then he also was raised in Japan.
Wow. And how long did you stay in Japan for?
So I lived in Japan until I was 5 years old.
Oh.
But because my grandparents and my cousins were based there, I would go and visit very often.
Okay, that's so nice. Did you learn how to speak Japanese?
Yes. So I started going to preschool in Japan. So it's interesting, my first language I would say was English, but then when I was a baby, my second language was Japanese. So we didn't really speak that much Hindi and Punjabi in our home when I was born, because after it was really English and Japanese were the language of business that I think just the family conversed in. And my mother, being from New Delhi, came from a very strong English speaking household where even her parents and grandparents spoke English in the home.
Okay. Did you learn how to speak Hindi at all, or not even now?
Yes. So I don't really speak Hindi, but I did learn how to read and write Punjabi because I'm a Sikh and a practicing Sikh. And so I did go to Punjabi school as a child in Los Angeles to learn Gurmukhi and Gurbani and the script of, our holy scripture, which is called the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. But I wouldn't say that I speak it very well. I mean, I certainly can understand it better than I speak. And I enjoy watching the movies. And of course, I enjoy doing the prayers and learning from our holy scripture and kind of their different meanings. So in that way, I would say that's really my exposure to languages that are Indian. But overall, in our home, we don't really speak Hindi and Punjabi that much.
As I'm listening to this, I'm just, oh my gosh, I love this whole mixture and mix and fusion. I'm like, that's so nice. It's the first time that I'm meeting someone who has, your kind of origins, but then born in Japan, and then also have, the grandfather and so forth who was also in Japan. That's so fascinating to me. Very, very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I was really fortunate. It was a really special experience, which I think I learned to appreciate more as I got older, for sure.
So here's my question for you, because basically you said you were born in Japan. You lived there until you were 5, and then you moved to LA.
Yes, Los Angeles. Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
and then you moved to LA. Then you have went to other different places to pursue further studies, and now you're back to New York. So my question is, was it difficult to navigate all these different places, and also living in Los Angeles? Did you ever feel like, okay, I don't know if I'm fit here?
You know, that's a really, really interesting and a very good question because I think it depends on your age and stage in life. So when I moved to the US as a child at 5, I certainly had a really hard time adjusting to American culture. I also didn't realize I was Indian, by the way, because I thought I was Japanese. So it wasn't until I met Americans who were like, "Oh, you're not Japanese, like you're brown," that I realized I was maybe a little bit confused about where I came from. And even though in Japan, obviously I knew I looked different. I mean, anyone could, every 5-year-old could see that. I never felt different from the other children in my school because we spoke the same language, we ate the same food, we played the same games. So I never really felt like I was different. But when I came to the US, I certainly had a very hard adjustment. It probably took me 3 to 4 years. I also had a lisp and I spoke English with like a little bit of a Japanese accent. So I got, living in Los Angeles in the 90s wasn't the easiest time anyway. And being so different back then, people didn't really appreciate like as much like our different identities. I think I was more confusing to many people.
Mm,
Then I would say by the time high school and middle school rolled around, I was pretty much fine with myself. And then, when I went to live in Morocco and Paris and Belgium and London, I mean, I was pretty confident in who I was at that point. I would say the hard adjustment for me was those, elementary first, second, third, fourth grade years, I guess, when I moved to the US.
right, right. I mean, I feel like it's not common to see, people that are born in Japan but then look Indian. Like, you are my first person, to be honest. You're
Yeah,
the
well,
first person.
there's not that many of us for sure. But back then in the 90s, actually, I would say even 60s, 70s, 80s, Japan was a thriving economy. So, we did have, well, maybe not so much the 80s actually, because then it kind of the economy went down a little bit, but that's a separate topic. But I would say there was a lot of influx after World War II of foreigners in Japan. And I'm from a town called Kobe, which is quite international for shipping and for trade. And there were a group of Punjabis or Indians in general. There's still some today. There's a little bit less than before, of course. But I mean, it's like living an expat life, but still being like the children still feel like they're part of mainstream culture. So
Mm-hmm.
even though I went to Japanese nursery school, if I had stayed in Japan in Kobe for my primary education, I would have been sent to an international school for primary school. So yeah, I mean, it's such a different experience. And certainly I think the whole don't judge a book by its cover is definitely very true for me because people look at me and think I'm Indian. And by the way, this is also from other Indians. Like they'll look at me and just start speaking to me in Punjabi or something because I'm Sikh and I look like a Sikh. And I think, when I start talking back in English, like, oh, I don't speak Punjabi that well, or, oh, I'm sorry, I don't really know much about India. I grew up in Japan more and I spent more time in Japan. I think that always throws people for a loop. So
Yeah.
it can be confusing. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it can be confusing for them, but it's also confusing for you, especially when as you were saying, like people were like super confused when they were looking at you, right? And my other question is, because now you're living in New York, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and my question is, because you call New York home, right?
Yeah, so I would say New York is home. Definitely. This is what the city that I've lived the longest, actually, if you think about it. I moved to LA when I was 5 and left LA when I was 17. Then I moved to, everywhere else that I already mentioned. But New York is probably the place where I've lived the longest in my life at this point. And it's also where I chose to get married and have a family. So my children are in New York. My husband is in New York. And our professional careers are in New York, at least for now. And yeah, I mean, this is New York City is my home.
Okay, and what makes it so special that you call it home? Because I just find it very interesting that you call New York home, especially because I feel like since you have moved, when you have moved from Japan when you were 5 years old, and then you were in LA from 5 to 17, I'm assuming that you have built most of your memories there. But then, you are calling New York home. What makes it so special that it's like, this is my home?
So I think when you're a third culture kid, I think you can make any place home.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it depends on necessarily how much time you've spent in a location. Like I lived in countries, one city in particular that I really never really felt that attached to. I was purely there for academic purposes, which is where I did my master's. And that place to me never really felt like home, even though I lived there longer than maybe Paris and Morocco, which for me, I have a much more of an affection for that. For those two places. So what I'm saying is like home is really wherever you want it to be. I think when I got married and had my own family and then started creating my own family, that to me was a profound move mentally and emotionally as a shift for myself into what really determines like what home is for me. Of course, when I go back to Japan, Japan is still home. If I'm in LA with my parents, it's still home. If I go to Paris, I feel like I'm home, but right now at this stage in my life, home is where my children and my husband are, and that's New York. And like I said, when you're a third culture kid, any place can be your home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And go ahead.
Okay, so basically, as I was saying, when you're a third culture kid, any place can really be home. And for me, at this age and stage in my life, just given that my family and the family that I've chosen to make is here, New York City is definitely home. But that being said, I mean, when you're third culture, home can be anywhere. So if I go back to Japan, Japan is still home. If I go to LA, LA is still home. When I'm in Paris, I mean, Paris is home. So, it's just one of those things. You learn to adapt very quickly when you're a third culture child.
Yeah, and you definitely embody this whole concept of third culture kid. Like you have just moved to so many places, you have lived in so many places. That's so amazing. And I do want to ask you, like, for someone who has traveled so many countries, which country is your favorite, or which city is your favorite?
That's really hard to say because different cities have awoken different things in my spirit. So I think I have to say I'm in love with Paris, as many people in the world are. Paris is where I think in my 20s, I really Morocco is where I discovered my identity and what I truly believed in. And Paris is kind of what solidified it for me, I think. Again, I mean, gosh, Japan is home in so many ways. Going to India, it's nice because it's the one place where I look like everyone else. And that's also kind of nice when you've never looked like everyone around you. But I have to say, I think Paris is just really very special to me.
Mm-hmm. And my other question was indeed this: do you go often to India?
I don't go to India that often, actually. I went with my family and the kids and my husband 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and then I went again last year for just a few days to visit my maternal side of the family, who are still living in India, so my mom's family. But other than that, I would say my real attachment to India is my faith and my mother's family. Otherwise, I'm not particularly attached to India as a country.
So you're speaking about India, and then you're speaking about all these different countries. My question is, at home, what kind of food did you eat?
So that's a good question because my home is very, very interesting. So the home that I grew up with is kind of the home that I do now with the kids, right? In terms of cuisine. So growing up, we would have Indian one night, Japanese one night, Mexican food one night, because in LA, you have a lot of Mexican food culture around you. And then now what I do is I do like Taco Tuesdays for the kids, and I'll do Italian one night, and then Indian one night, and then Mediterranean one night, and then Japanese, of course, 1 or 2 nights, because that's the food that I am most, I would say, my favorite food, and the food that the children also are used to the most. And then weekends, we tend to eat out very New York City style, I have to say.
I mean, I love New York City, so there's so many things that you can do. And I just came back from LA, and I love LA as well. I'm like, if I could just move there. So yeah, it's
a great place. LA's wonderful. LA has a totally different vibe than New York, and both places are just awesome.
Yes, I agree with you. So as we are approaching the end of the episode, and you have spoken a little bit about your life, your story, you moving around, you being a third culture kid, what is the message that you want to leave the audience with?
Sure. I mean, I think in terms of speaking to other third culture people, or third culture kids or adults, I would say, what I would tell a 20-year-old is, when you really want something, right? And someone says no, usually if it's like an opportunity that you really, really want, there is a way to get it. And there's a way to just keep working towards it, even when people say no to you. So for those starting their careers and not sure what they want to do and not sure if, they can do it, because, I mean, self-doubt is normal, but just remember, you're probably your biggest opponent mentally. So just remember to stay strong. Remember to always keep your self-respect, and remember who you are and where you've come from. Even if you come from one culture, like, just remember who you are and what you come from. And then another thing I would say, particularly to third culture kids actually, is it's okay to not fit in everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to not fit in, and you can still be unique. And you should, I know it's easier said than done, particularly for people who might be slightly insecure. But I mean, definitely just be confident in who you are and learn to trust yourself, and be proud of all the different aspects of your identity and your culture. And I think that's really something that I would want the audience, to leave with. It's okay to be different. And it's embrace the difference. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you won't feel like you fit into a crowd, but that's okay, because eventually you will meet your people, and you'll make great friends even with people from one culture, right? Like, you don't need to only be friends with third culture kids. Just the world is such a beautiful place, and third culture kids have a natural instinct to adapt and to connect with people. So use that to your advantage.
Definitely. It's so beautifully said. Well, Asees, thank you so much for coming on my podcast today. Before I let you go, do you want to tell us how people can connect with you?
Sure. So I actually have a podcast as well. It's called Sakura Suki Strength, and people can reach out to me either via email at hello@Sakura Suki Strength, or on TikTok or Instagram at Sakura Suki Strength is the handle. And basically, it's about these third culture conversations. There's also a huge aspect that also discusses Sikhism and like the idea of the Sikh religion and just concepts that are in our faith for those who are maybe not so familiar with it and are interested in learning more. And it's about stories of strength and resilience. So thank you so much for having me, and it's been such an honor.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Urmi. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Stories Beyond Borders. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a story. Until next time, keep crossing borders and telling your story.